So as we're coming in, I'm about to get started. Again, welcome everyone, no matter who you are from across campus. We are so excited that you joined us here tonight for AS Community Town Hall. We're welcoming students, faculty, staff, administrators. We're all getting together, all of us Wildcats from this one big community, and we're about to talk about some really important, super important campus issues, some organizing themes. As you're joining us, please feel free to put your questions in the chat that you might have come prepared with. However, we do have an agenda for tonight. And so I'm about to share how the night looks, and you might want to save your questions for when that time frame comes to where a specific speaker is going to talk about a specific thing. But before we get started, I would like to welcome up a fellow Wildcat, an advocate for all of us across our Wildcat community, and someone who continuously has been working hard throughout this time, through this pandemic, for all of us. And so without further ado, I'd like to welcome Miss President Gail Hutchinson to speak on behalf of herself. Go ahead, Gail.
Great, thanks, Bree. And hi, Wildcats. Great to see you all. Thanks for being here. And let me begin by saying I want to thank Bree for your leadership and that of the AS officers and all of the support staff for pulling together this town hall. I think this is a fantastic idea. I hope we do more of this in the future. I also want to thank the students who are both on the Zoom call tonight and the students who answered the survey. Your questions and your concern and your passion for Chico State and for your education is palpable. Your questions are fantastic, and I'm glad you've asked them. We have a stellar lineup of presentations tonight, and the folks who will be answering questions really do have a lot of information to share with you. But I also wanted to point out that I encourage you to continue to ask questions. One thing we really work on here at Chico State, and that is to be very transparent with all of our actions and initiatives and the way we support you. We are here for one reason and one reason only, and that is for student success. So we have lots of information by our faculty and staff who are on the call or with whom you interact every day. And we also have tons of information on our website. So I think you'll be interested tonight to see that we have all kinds of links for you to look at. I do want to say this, that these are unprecedented times. We are in the midst of a pandemic. And for those of you who are upperclassmen, you know that in addition to dealing with a pandemic, COVID-19 this year, we've also had the challenge of the campfire just 2 years ago. We have the pandemic going on right now, and we had another wildfire season. All of what we're experiencing is unprecedented, yet you persist. Yet we all persist as the Chico State community. We are actually doing our best, and I could not be more proud of each and every student as they persist. You know, life has really changed for all of us in so many ways, and we have realized that Zoom, this has become a lifeline for work, for school, for play. And it's become really clear that internet connectivity is essential for everyone. And it also, we've learned about the connectivity deserts that we have out there, which Chico State and others around the state are working to resolve. But one thing that I think we'll never take for granted ever again is that social connection to one another, that in-person connection. I know I miss it. I miss all of you. And I can't wait for that time where we are through this pandemic and we're able to get back together. The fall semester is coming to an end, and we are entering the holiday season and preparing to welcome in a new year. And I hope you're going to take a moment and reflect on what you're grateful for. You know, as I think right now off the top of my head, I am grateful for all of you. I'm grateful for students, for staff, for faculty, all of you who make up the Wildcat family and really persist and drive our mission forward. I'm also grateful for my health. And I want you to know that if you can find a way to take time in your day to express gratitude, you'll find that it'll nurture a positive mindset. And it actually helps to fuel a sense of self-resilience. And resilience is absolutely essential in this time of adversity as we work our way through this pandemic and tackle challenges. And that self-resilience breeds confidence and persistence and grit, which all of you have demonstrated and will continue to demonstrate. So with that, I'm going to give you a couple of practices for consideration. One, if you're not quite sure how to express gratitude, then I hope you will help others through the kindness of your heart. I know you might have to do it virtually, but there are a lot of folks who could benefit from your helping hand, if you will, reaching out via Zoom or social media, or even at a distance physically. List good things in your life, as I had mentioned before. Maybe take a walk outside and find a way to observe nature in its beauty. You'll find that experience really humbling. Practice positive self-talk and reflection. Engage in positive affirmation and visualizations. All of this will nurture that positive mindset. And exercise, sleep, and eat foods that are both healthy and nutritious. I also encourage you, and I do this even when I'm cleaning the house, is to express yourself through creativity such as dance, art, and music. And you're wondering, how do I do that when I'm cleaning the house? I love to throw on my favorite music and dance while I'm cleaning. It just lifts my spirit. And then also exhibit patience to the best of your ability, even when you don't feel like it. All of these things can help with gratitude. All of these things will help you nurture that positive mindset. Before I hand it back to Bree, I did want to share some good news, some things that we can look forward to. So I'm going to ask that we show the physical science building right now. For those of you who have not been on campus, I want to whoop, whoop, here's the physical science building. It looks just like this. If you were to walk or ride your bike or drive down Warner Street, you'll see the backside of it. But if you walk campus and look at this beautiful physical science building, you will see it is ready to go. We probably will have some sort of virtual opening come spring, but this is exciting because some of you, those of you who are graduating, you'll have to come back and visit. But for all of our Wildcats, this is going to be a fabulous science building. We're calling it Science on Display. You'll see it has a lot of glass. It keeps with the Chico State brick. And the laboratories inside are second to none. It's going to be a great place to conduct research, to engage in learning activities with school children, and for all of our students to learn their science. So I would say keep an eye out for a soft opening because you won't want to miss it. We're doing a special dedication to our Machupta in our opening of this. And thank you for showing that. And lastly, looking ahead to 2021, there is hope for a better year despite the persistence of COVID-19. The Centers for Disease Control have stated that safe and effective vaccines, which are absolutely critical to reduce COVID-19 related illnesses, are just about ready for mass distribution. I anticipate that mass distribution may begin as early as April or May once we get through vaccines being distributed to first responders, medical, and those who are most fragile with their health. And that said, mass distribution hopefully will occur over the summer, and I hope all of you will keep watch for that. And what that means is there is hope in the future. One day we will be returning to campus. And what we have to do right now is think positively out to the future and not give in to pandemic fatigue. We have to do our best to stay the course. And the best way to do that is to find a way to take care of ourselves and reach other and stay connected and take care of each other. We will get through this, and together we will thrive. And with that, Bree, I'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President Hutchinson. And I don't know about anybody else, but yes, I be dancing all up in my kitchen to some music when I clean too. So yes, thank you so much. It's really exciting to see the future and, to talk about those ways to still be active through this pandemic. So thank you so much for encouraging us. All right, y'all, we're about to get started into the night. We had some encouragement from President Hutchinson, and now I'm going to set some expectations. So our wonderful AS staff is going to drop a link in the chat, and that link is to a survey. throughout the night tonight, if you see some aspect of the town hall that you're like, oh man, that'd be really cool if we added this, or oh, like they didn't talk about this, like I'd really like if we had a conversation about this, please throw it in that survey. Please tell us how we can improve. This is, this is the second town hall we've had, and we put a lot of preparation into this one. And so we really hope that we can get some valuable feedback so we can continue to meet y'all where you're at, where we need to be. So with that being said, I would like to introduce our speakers for tonight, as well as kind of front load what they'll be talking about. And so our very first speaker of the night will be our folks from our Wildcat Center. And those folks are Chris Sims. He's a licensed clinical social worker, and Angie Hensley, a licensed marriage and family therapist. Our second speakers of the night will be around our conversation around basic needs. And those folks will be, Emma Jewett. I'm a case manager for Chico State Basic Needs Project. And then our third speakers of the night will be talking about freedom of speech and advocacy. And those are Dr. Ann Schulte, of CSU Chico Director of Civic Engagement and Faculty and Fellow for Rural Partnerships, and Mary Walmark, CSU Chico Director of Student Life and Leadership. Our fourth speaker of the night is Ms. Chella Patterson, and she will be speaking with us about equity initiatives. And Chella is the CSU Chico Associate VP of Student Life and Interim Chief Diversity Officer. And then lastly, we have two speakers who will be speaking on our fees, the fiscal impact of our campus. Those will be broken up into two different presentations, our AS fees and then our university fees. And the speaker of our AS fees will be Ms. Jamie Clyde. She is Chico State Associated Student Executive Director. And then last speaker of the night will be our university fees discussion, and Ms. Stacy Corona will be speaking about that. She's our Associate Vice President of Financial Services. Whew, that was a whirlwind, great people. And now we will get to our first presentation, Chris Sims and Angie Hensley. Y'all go ahead.
Hey, as I start, Bree, and all the Associated Student staff, I really appreciate all the effort that y'all have put into this. This is a big deal, and I'm so happy to be here. I really appreciate what you're doing for us. Let's see. I think to start, I'm going to split this with Angie, so I'll try and make it as quick as I can. But I just want to echo what President Hutchinson said, that these are extraordinary times. And what I hear a lot as a therapist right now is just so much fatigue and a feeling of overwhelm, and having a hard time focusing and having a hard time motivating. And when I hear that stuff, sometimes I think maybe that's a healthy person's response to these extraordinary challenges that we're having. So if you're out there suffering, just know that it may not be you, but we are in incredibly tough times, and it's very stressful. Let's see, what do I want to say? Like a good social worker, I've worked at a lot of places in my life, and I've never worked with a more talented clinical team than we have at Chico State, and I'm very proud to be a part of that team. You can call us at 898-6345 or make online appointments. We still have appointments available, and I promise that you will get good service and be well supported. If you're suffering, sometimes one of the things that happens is that you feel sort of more isolated in your suffering. And since we're all feeling a little bit like we're in a long distance relationship with life right now, that can be a really dangerous thing. So if you're on the fence about trying to get some counseling, please think about hitting us up. I also wanted to let people know that our website has tons of great resources, including like self-help stuff and deep breathing stuff, what to do with anxiety and depression, hotlines to call if you need help. And speaking of that, if you call our regular line, 898-6345, you can get confidential free telephone support 24/7, and it's there for you. And usually we'll have somebody follow up if that's what you want. Let's see. All right, maybe I'll stop there. And I'll just say, like, Angie started with us maybe a year or two ago and stuff, and she's one of the best parts of the staff for me. She's wonderful, and I'm really happy that she's here with me. And I'll let her talk about some of the peer stuff that we have going on at our counseling center.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chris. So I'm so excited about the work that I get to do with some of the student-led services that we provide through the counseling center. One of them is peer coaching. So if you maybe don't want to get therapy, but you do want to connect with somebody, and like Gail was saying, do some of these things like improve in realistic ways your diet or your exercise or being creative. We have peer coaches that meet with students individually. They also do some very cool virtual groups. So we do virtual exercise and mindfulness and creative writing, and they're all amazing MSW and MFT graduate students, and they're very passionate about what they're doing and so good at it. So that's available to you. We also have You Matter interns, and they're really passionate about mental health and wellness, and in this way that we're holding it like holistic health, like how all of the things that we do, the ways that we connect with each other and stay in community, and how, all of this is connected. They totally get it, and they do outreach, and are putting on a mental health symposium. I really want to encourage everybody to come. It's on the 11th and 12th, and Kevin Hines is going to be a keynote speaker, and he is a suicide attempt survivor. And he tells his story, which is really moving. And we're going to have some time the second day to talk more about what our team is really passionate about, which is decolonizing your mind. So kind of taking a look at how we may have been enculturated to think about mental health or wellness that maybe doesn't serve us, and looking at different like cultural perspectives on wellness. And we'll be doing some exercises and some interactive talks about that. And for the first 200 people that sign up on Eventbrite, you will get a self-care package, and it has all kinds of cool swag in it, but also chocolate that's organic. So I get on that train, kids. We hope that you come and reach out. And again, any questions or anything, you can call us. And we're here for you.
And thank you all so much for presenting. Sorry, we had a couple of technical difficulties just now, but thank you so much for sharing. Now we're going to jump into some questions, and our EVP, Jenny Mendoza, is going to take us there.
Hi everyone, good night. So my name is Jennifer Mendoza. I am the AS Executive EVP, and these are just a couple questions that have been coming in. I'm gonna be reading them out loud, and just feel free to answer them however you see fit. So one of the questions is, what are signs of being mentally drained? What are some strategies students can implement to replenish themselves heading into the spring semester?
For me, it's the same as the students that I get to see, is that sometimes it's hard to get out of bed a little bit and just face a day. I love this job, and it's been interesting to me. Sometimes it's like, I'd rather go to the dentist sometimes than get out of bed and do this thing. And I talk to the people I work with, and then I see the clients that I see, and nothing against dentists. It's just not my favorite thing in the world to do. But, and they're feeling the same way. It's sort of like, I just feel like life is hard anyway. And then with all this extra stuff, sometimes it's really a challenge to keep going. And I don't, like I said at the beginning, I don't think that that's a symptom of us being sick or anything. I think it's just really overwhelming right now. Does that make sense? You want to add anything, Angie?
I'll just add that I feel like Gail had a lot of like really good suggestions in the beginning there with like, how do we sort of stay in a way like ahead of some of this, so that you know, we're doing some little things every single day that are like self-care things that help us, so that our anxiety is down, but our mood is up, so that when some big stuff happens, like, oh, for example, finals or something like that, then we're, instead of being at like a 10 or an 11, we're just at like a 4 or a 5, you know? And so some of these self-care things I think are really important in helping us with this. And I really feel like staying connected to people is huge. You know, we are social animals, and we're open loop systems. We're meant to be regulated by one another. And so if we're isolated a lot, it can really impact how, you know, how we're feeling. And so staying connected with people, even if that is just like this through Zoom or over the phone, or doing, you know, some socially distanced walks or whatever it is, but just to stay connected to people that regulate you well, if that makes sense, like make you feel okay.
I'm going to jump in here real quick. If any student has, or any community member who's here tonight has a question specifically on this part of the presentation, please drop it in the Q&A and we'll get to your question.
Yes, like Bree said, also check the Q&A, because the answers are, the questions are getting answered on there as well. So any questions that are popping up, we have a link to resources, and also check, because we might be answering them live as well. So on the topic of humans needing interaction, a huge question we keep getting for mental health as well is that if there are any plans for the university to help provide students with in-person or safe interaction for their well-being, for their mental health well-being.
I'll go. Right now, all my appointments are through Zoom. I think all of our appointments are through Zoom. And I'm working out of the health center. And even then, if somebody came in, that they're going to an office where nobody is. So we're doing all of our stuff virtually.
And I can help out here a little bit too. Thanks, Chris and Angie. Jennifer, that's a great question. What's difficult is that we're seeing a surge with the pandemic. So if I can reflect on the fall semester, you know, we're predominantly virtual, very limited on-campus activity is happening. And as we moved and we saw restrictions lessened, we were able to increase people coming onto campus a little bit and maybe interacting at a distance. But now that we've moved back into purple tier, and we know that the governor is talking to us about possibly placing in, putting in another shelter in place type of order, it becomes extremely difficult to have more in-person activity. So unfortunately, really not very much. We still have to continue with our Zoom opportunities. And I think Chris and Angie are giving great information as to how to get connected. And I agree with them wholeheartedly. Thanks.
You know, it was really weird for me, because I'm like, how am I going to do therapy, you know, over Zoom? And admittedly, it's not the same. However, I've been shocked at how effective and connected that I feel with people that I've never had come into my office, but we just meet over Zoom. So I think there's still a lot of value in meeting with people, even if it is virtually.
Definitely. Thank you for those answers. We do want to keep moving to the next section for time constraints. But if anyone has any other questions, please drop it in the Q&A. And also you can attach it to the link we sent earlier to review the town hall as a whole. So now we will go into our basic needs conversation. And if we can have our panelists for basic needs kick it off for us, and we'll be.
Hi, I'm Emma Jewett. I'm the Basic Needs Case Manager. Thank you so much for having us. I want to start off by saying a big thank you to AS so much for their continued support and giving Basic Needs a platform to continue to support our students. I know it's been definitely a struggle trying to remain connected, but fortunately we have everybody that are working really hard to provide students with the support they need during this time. And we've been really lucky with Basic Needs to maintain a schedule of keeping the pantry open Monday through Friday from 9:30 to 12:30. We're there on campus to provide food for our students on an emergency basis. So please come on down. Also, I wanted to give a shout out to AS for continuing to provide us with meals to the pantry. Really helps out. It's super popular and the students just absolutely love that. I do have a, thank you. Thank you, Hugh, so much. So in the background, you're gonna see kind of just what the pantry and Basic Needs is about. We've been really fortunate to be able to partner with the Organic Vegetable Project through Chico State Farms. And so we have constantly an overabundance of beautiful fruits and vegetables that we're able to provide our students with to help meet their needs. It's been a really great experience and we've gotten some really beautiful feedback. As we all know, it can be expensive to eat healthy. And so, you know, a lot of our students have voiced concerns that they have dietary restrictions or they, you know, would like to incorporate things that, you know, maybe would be a little bit out of their price range. I know personally from being a student in the past, Top Ramen was one of my staple foods. And nothing against Top Ramen, but it definitely, it gets old. It gets old. So being able to supplement your food with some great vegetables have been really, really wonderful. And it's also been great to be able to, you know, connect with students as they're coming by. We do ask that please, you know, you stand 6 feet away and always remember to bring your mask. We do have, you know, some masks that we can provide you by the off chance that you forget it, but, you know, just make sure that you're protecting your safety and ours as well. And we do have hand sanitizer, absolutely, of course. Yeah, so with that being said, as some of you may be aware, Basic Needs is basically a 3-part system. We have the food pantry, which as I mentioned is open Monday through Friday from 9:30 to 12:30 or by appointment. And then we have the emergency grant part of it. So the emergency grant is for students that have had an unexpected emergency that, you know, may have cost them a little bit more money, or, you know, something like their laptop broke, or they had a medical emergency that they weren't expecting. And so we just ask if you happen to have one of those experiences, that I'm going to put it in the chat right now, the link to the Basic Needs website, and that will bring you and do the application, as well as provide you with the eligibility and a little bit more information regarding what we would ask that you provide. And then in addition to that, wonderfully, Chico State was one of 7 CSU campuses that received monies from Governor Newsom's $1 billion initiative on homelessness. And with that, we were able to start the rapid rehousing program. And since 2016, we've been able to house over 125 students that were either currently homeless or housing insecure. And so, I mean, as many of you may be aware, Butte County has experienced a housing crisis. Before the Camp Fire in 2018, we had very limited available housing, and now it hovers at somewhere around 1%. And what does that mean for our student body? That means that it prices them out, right? So we see things like couch surfing, or, you know, doubling up rooms, and that's wonderful. Our students are resilient, they're resourceful, they are able to, you know, make a little bit work. but at the same time, couch surfing by HUD guidelines is still homelessness. And so we just encourage you, if you or you know someone that may be experiencing this situation, please reach out, because Chico State is here to support you. And we want you to know that there are resources available to you. Fortunately, we have been super lucky to have community partners that have allowed us to support our students, such as CHAT, the Chico Housing Action Team, and True North. And they've provided us with a platform to be able to find adequate housing for our students, and have been a really amazing partner to work with. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Emma, for sharing about basic
Thank
needs.
you.
Yes. Oh, this last slide. Do you want to go over this one?
Yes, thank you. So this last slide basically highlights the 3 parts of the basic needs program: our Hungry Wildcat Food Pantry, the homeless prevention and emergency shelter, and the emergency grants. At the bottom, additionally, it has the link that I posted in the chat as well for the basic needs website.
Thank you, Emma. Giving you virtual claps. Woohoo! So I have a few questions, and then I was going to address some questions in the chat. So as I'm asking a couple of questions, feel free to throw those questions in the chat for Emma, and we'll try to get some of those questions answered live. The first question, and we're taking these questions from the survey that we put out this past week. The first question we have is, many students are facing food insecurity issues, especially students who relocated from the dorms to an apartment in Chico where they didn't expect to have to shop for groceries or cook meals on their own. Is there resources to meet students where they are on how to provide healthy meals for themselves?
In terms of meeting students where they are, like we're open Monday through Friday at the Pantry from 9:30 to 12:30 or by appointment. So I know 9:30 to 12:30 is a time when a lot of students are in classes. And so that's why we have the application online, because if you are experiencing food insecurity, but you can't make it to one of our scheduled openings, we will definitely do our best to help support you and get food to you, whatever that looks like. We have people on our team that are absolutely willing to support you.
A follow-up question, is there ways that students can learn how to cook for themselves and through the Wildcat Food Pantry, or do you have any recommendations of where they can go to maybe cook some of the food that they get at the food pantry at home?
Yeah, so I love that. We've actually been working with several departments on campus to do a virtual cooking show. And I'm definitely going to be stay tuned for that, because it'll be posted on our website, as well as the department's websites that we partner with. It's in the mix. We don't know exactly when it's going to be happening, but hopefully soon.
Thank you. Another question we have from the chat, is the food at the Wildcat Food Pantry free?
Absolutely. There's never a charge to access.
What would a student need in order to access the food pantry?
We request that you know your student ID. And actually, now that we've gone virtual, it's just so amazing. We have a little scanner that you just use your phone and you scan the barcode and it logs you right in, and that's it.
Seems simple. Okay,
Super
easy process.
easy.
Yeah.
We like to streamline everything and make it so accessible.
Yeah, thank you. Last question that we have right now in the chat, and feel free to keep dropping those questions. Is there additional funding made available by the state or the federal government for student aid? Will there be a similar application process like the CARES Act?
That is a great question. I'm not privy to that information, but as it comes out, we will definitely keep our students updated.
Hey, Bree, this is Stacy. I just typed that answer in the chat.
Oh.
I'm not sure if everybody sees that. I hope so. But I just said that if we did receive more funding, we would have to see if there's any restrictions on how to allocate the dollars. But we would do our best to, get those funds turned around and get them into hands of students as quickly as possible.
That's great. Thank you, Cece. Emma, we have one last question for you so far. many students are struggling to get reliable technology and Wi-Fi services. Students who go to campus to receive that free Wi-Fi often have to jump through hoops to get to reliable Wi-Fi service. Does Basic Needs deal with that? And how do y'all go about helping campus attain reliable Wi-Fi service? I think is the question.
Absolutely. So the first thing I would do is direct the student to our application for assistance so that we can gather more information and find out, if they are local. And if they are local, then we can connect them with resources for low cost or free Wi-Fi. There's been hotspots available, I know, made available to students. So we definitely have resources out there. Just if you have a question, submit an application for assistance and we can figure out how best to support you.
Can students find that on the website?
Absolutely. So just click on the blue link in the slide, the Basic Needs, and that will take you directly to the Basic Needs website. And then in the left-hand corner, it's the application for assistance. You can't miss it.
Thank you, Emma. That's great. Are there any other questions out there that might be floating before we move on? We got some typers typing fast. Anyone? And if not, it's totally okay. Again, I want to remind everyone that there's a survey to fill out. And so if your question wasn't answered here tonight because we didn't get to it fast enough, or you have a suggestion on how this whole town hall can go, please fill out that survey. It's in the chat and we'll be reposting it here soon. But before we go on to the next part, I just want to thank Emma one more time for taking your time out tonight to speak with us on Basic Needs and providing that information.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. All right, y'all, now we're going to move on to our next presenter, presenters having a conversation about freedom of speech and advocacy. We have Dr. Ann Schulte and Mary Walmark. Welcome, y'all.
Thank you, Bree. I'll jump in first, and we just want to let you know, why would you be interacting with us related to free speech and advocacy? Well, number one, since I'm in student life and leadership, I am all about the student voice. In fact, I'm so excited that there are all these people on this webinar right now, because I'm preaching to my choir right now. You are advocating, you are speaking, you are making connections, and you're doing that just by even watching this to start. And I'm seeing the chat come up and the questions come up. But in student life and leadership, our office helps facilitate free speech on campus. So we have the free speech advocates that you may have seen around in the yellow vest. Our advocates were busy during the recent election. And by the way, Chico State, #1 per capita in number of registered students per capita in the entire CSU. So we are the free speech and advocacy campus in the CSU. So again, student life and leadership, that's part of what we do, and it's part of our mission. It's part of our job description, is to support free speech and advocacy on campus. So now I'll let my colleague Ann Schulte talk a little bit about her role in this.
Hi, everyone. I serve as the Director of Civic Engagement, and that basically means that I do a lot of voter and civic empowerment. So as Mary was saying, our fall was full of both voter registration and voting and census. We finished up the census this year. So these are different ways that we all get represented in our government or are able to. So those are a couple things I do in terms of representation, but I also work to really connect our students to communities through partnership. So faculty can help students to apply their learning and connect to their learning in real, meaningful, and relevant ways. And these are all different ways you can participate in making change in your communities, both this community and the one that you come from. So these are the different ways that the Office of Civic Engagement helps to connect you to sharing your voice through these different avenues. And we have a couple slides to share with you. Yeah, there you go.
All right, so what we're hoping to do with just to go through a little bit of information sharing here, and we want to talk about, you know, in this virtual time, we still need to have expression and advocacy, and particularly, it's really hard because now we're trying to connect to you and you're trying to connect to us, and this relationship between you and the university is one of your most important advocacy opportunities. We need to know what you need. It's great when someone puts on the chat that, hey, I need better access to Wi-Fi. We need to know that, and that's you advocating for yourself and doing that. So we want to talk a little bit about what advocacy looks like and tools you can use to advocate for yourself, especially in this time. So if I can get the next slide. So first, you know, this virtual thing, I mean, virtual has been part of advocacy ongoing because social media has moved mountains, right? I mean, things have blown up on social media. It's spawned movements. It's attracted people to demonstrations, all that sort of thing. But there are other things too. And these are the things that we want to make sure that you don't forget about. So this webinar right now, this town hall is being hosted by your Associated Students government. And they actually are your elected representatives and they have a seat at the table. And I mean, Bree meets with President Hutchinson. So the AS president meets with the president of the university on a regular basis. So by connecting with your elected representatives, that's a great way to get some of your issues really brought to the forefront. And so it's no accident that your Associated Students government are the ones who hosted this town hall. There are other places too, though. I don't want you to forget that Dr. Schulte, Ann, and I exist, and that we have those offices. But we're still working. It's still happening. We're doing it all virtually, but you can still call Student Life and Leadership, and between 10 and 2 at 898-5396, you actually get a live student who can help you work through some things and maybe ask some questions and find your way to some resources. Student organizations are still a great way to connect. And so when we talk about advocacy and identifying issues or finding answers or some of those things, sometimes by joining a group that has that in mind, that's a great way to do it. And so Wildcat Sync is still a great option for you to go on and find clubs and organizations that might be doing activities and things related to advocacy. The other one that we talked about, Ann and I, we were like, faculty, staff, and advisors. The great thing about Chico State, and one of our hallmarks, is that I have never had the experience where I called an office and I was like, hey, can you tell me about X, Y, and Z? And they said, oh, that's really not our area, sorry. We are the networking campus. So if somebody calls me and I don't know the answer, I'm like, you know what? I don't know that, but I know somebody who knows that. So even just using those faculty office hours, those don't have to be just for things related to the coursework or an exam. If it has to do with your university experience and you have a question about it, your faculty, those are the ones you're in touch with more often than anybody right now. And they want to hear from you and they want to try to help you find those answers. As well as, again, other offices on campus. I mean, the financial aid office, everybody knows that's open and operating and they answer their phones, right? Call them, maybe they know. Social media, of course, but one of the things we want to say about social media, criticizing and complaining are not advocacy. That's noise. So we want to help you make that next step. Identify the problem, but then where do we go from there? If we can get the next slide. Lastly, there's a time to protest and appeal. And that time, you know, has happened in our history as a campus, and it will happen again. And we want to help you do that in a safe and sane sort of way. One of the other things, and President Hutchinson's going to thank me for this, but one of the things we were talking about is maybe writing to the president of the institution isn't your first step, right? There may actually be people closer to you who can help you find some of the answers rather than going all the way to the top. And you would be surprised at how many times, both on and off campus, people think, I'll write directly to the president. She will do everything she can to answer your questions, but probably that involves walking you back to that office that you just didn't think, oh my gosh, I could have asked them. So make sure you're using the people around you and the people that you have access to on a regular basis. The other thing we wanted to touch on is, again, part of advocacy is knowing what you need, right? You've got to identify your needs and your wants, because you've got to have an idea of what you want going into any kind of advocacy situation. So if there's something that just doesn't feel right, or that is holding you back, or making it difficult for you to access opportunities, knowing what you want to get to and where you want to go with that can really help us help you figure out the best path for that. And that's really what we're here for, is to help you find your voice, to help you find the access to resources, to a voice, to really be able to express yourself, right? And have an opinion. I want to say one more thing about elections as well. Chico State students did a fantastic job in participating with the election. Even students who, for whatever reason, couldn't or didn't vote, there was still a lot of participation. And that really made a difference, right? We really saw in this last election that every voice really matters. You have AS elections coming up this next semester, and those voices in that election matter as well. So I want to remind you that you have an opportunity. Maybe you want to run for office. Maybe you want to sit in one of those seats, but there's a great opportunity to do that. And again, ask questions, ask people how it's done. Associated Students Government, they want you to apply to run for office. So make sure you take advantage of that. And if you don't run, that's okay. Make sure you get involved in that election and vote, right? Put people in places that can help you get the things you need while you're here at the university. Okay, last slide, I think. All right, I'm going to turn this over to my colleague.
Yeah, so we want to hear from you too. We want to know what's working for you to get information right now, because that helps inform us. How are you getting information and sharing, talking to other students about issues that are of concern to you, or advocating for yourself or for those around you? What tools or methods are you using to get the university the information they need, or to get the kinds of things you need? And what can we do to help you communicate more and provide venues and opportunities for you to have your voice heard? I mean, a lot of times on campus when we're in person, we coalesce outside together, or we show up at a place to do a thing, and that's really more challenged in this virtual environment. So if you're finding success in certain ways of doing that, we want to know what that is, but we also want to know, what do you need from us? Do you need more opportunities created for that? Or how can we respond to your need for that?
All right, we've had a couple of questions in the Q&A. I want to touch on a couple of them. Somebody had a question, and I think somebody may have written an answer, so it sort of disappeared, but free speech. They had a question about, what about hate speech and free speech? Couple of quick things. One, free speech is a tool for advocacy, right? Free speech by itself really doesn't get you anything. Like one of the things, we've had this discussion that, we're always saying, no, well, free speech helped the civil rights movement in the 60s. Well, kind of. What really helped is that march across the bridge, right? Across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And by people really putting themselves out there and being insistent and representing and showing up and participating in peaceful protest. And they also used free speech, but free speech alone, is not a magic bullet, right? It doesn't change things in and of itself. What changes things is free speech can get attention, and then attention ended up getting people in office who voted and changed laws. That's really how that worked. So free speech is an important tool. And it's something that we hold near and dear. I mean, it is our First Amendment in the Constitution, but by itself, it's really just noise, right? I can run out in the middle of the quad tomorrow and just shout something about, my favorite pizza. It's free speech, but what am I really getting out of that? So that gets me back to, what is it you want as an outcome, right? What are you looking to make happen? Know what you're advocating for, what you want to see take place, because that's going to guide you to the places where you have a chance to make that really happen. Shouting it from the rooftops, it's protected, you can do it, but I don't know that it's going to get you anything. Talking to people, finding resources, advocating for yourself, getting together with other people who are advocating for the same thing, that's where free speech really works. The other question, oh, I love this one. Somebody typed, it seems like free speech only applies to liberal opinions. And I've been threatened when sharing my opinion. I'm not a combative person. More sensitive individuals are ill prepared to fend for themselves in the real world, and differing viewpoint is not a personal attack. This has been our challenge in the country, right? In America, that we've sort of downgraded everything to personalities rather than topics. So I have heard from both sides. You know, when I'm wearing my little campus free speech advocates vest, which people mock me for, but I'm like, it's brightly colored, you can identify me. One of the things I always say is, okay, I'm Switzerland then, right? I don't have an opinion on one side or the other, because we're making sure that everybody gets to express their opinion. And that means that we are sometimes going to hear things that are really hard to hear, that we really disagree with. And we're also, sometimes we're going to say those things and we're going to get that feedback. As long as we can have dialogue about that, we have a chance. As soon as it becomes a screaming match, as soon as, you know, people just sort of start hurling insults, it's over. And that's really the challenge. But it's really important that we have those discussions. And I would, if you really disagree with me on something, I would really much rather hear that disagreement than have it be bubbling under the surface clandestine where I don't even know it exists. So free speech, you know, it's one of our greatest tools, but it's also one of our biggest challenges. And the last thing I'm going to add to this is free speech hurts. Hate speech is free speech. There's just no way around that. That's our Constitution. But we also have to acknowledge that just because it's free speech doesn't mean it's necessarily good all the time. There are some dehumanizing things that people say under the banner of free speech, which is why you will hear scholars, you will hear advocates of free speech, you will hear them say this over and over again. The cure for bad free speech is more speech. You know, we want to live in a world where we can come together and have the discussion and find that common ground and find that dialogue, and leaving behind the dehumanizing and the prejudices and those sorts of things. You know, the goal is to talk ourselves through that. So it can be really challenging, it can be painful, it can be hurtful, it is sometimes wholly unfair, but it's a tool, and what we do with it is what creates those outcomes.
Thank you for that, Mary. There are a couple of questions that we have also collected. One of the other ones that was in the Q&A that I think got answered on the chat was, what are the repercussions in place for students who post hate speech online / social media like Twitter and Instagram?
Okay, so a little reminder that social media is considered a public forum. So there's kind of no difference between me posting it on Facebook compared to standing out in the middle of Trinity Commons and saying it, right? Those are full open forum free speech locations. And when I post those things, unless I post something that's going to fall under one of the unprotected categories, and one of the ones that people always use as an example is inciting violence. Whether I'm saying it out in the middle of campus or whether I'm posting it online, unless there is a physical act that ends up immediately following it, right? Like, for example, we can't say that it's incited violence unless the violence actually happened, right? It's a very tight legal precedence for there to be any repercussions from that. So the reality is, if somebody posts something online that I don't like, I cannot force them to take it down. And it is a public forum. So we had this discussion recently, actually, with someone who was very concerned that this other person kept posting things that they really disagreed with. And our advice to them was stop going to their page, and for sure don't comment on it, right? You're just bringing more and more attention to it. So it can be really challenging, but that thing that I was saying before is, again, free speech, sometimes it's not fair. Some of the things aren't true, so they're not fair, all those things, but those are all protected. So if you're hearing free speech that you disagree with or don't like, find people who think like you and go have the speech that you care about, that is meaningful to you, with them.
Thank you. One more question that was asked was, many students throughout the semester have felt that their voices haven't been heard in many of the issues discussed here tonight. How could a student who is concerned about issues surrounding fees, mental health, basic needs, and equity speak up about these issues? What spaces can they hold? What would be some of the steps they could take to advocate for themselves? And how does the university ensure that the students who are holding these spaces actually get heard? That was a lot. I'm sorry.
That is such a great question, though, because that covers the gamut right there. And that's part of when I opened up and I was saying it's really important that you advocate for yourself to the university right now, because we're not seeing each other, right? It's not like, we're going to pass each other on campus and you're going to be like, oh, hey, by the way, this is really bugging me, or this is making things hard, or, this is, I don't think this is right. We're not going to, everything has to be really intentional right now. So literally, like, for example, at the beginning of this, Bree highlighted that you're going to have a survey. Here's one thing: fill out the survey. If people ask you your opinion, give it. Fill out the survey. Vote in the AS election. Write to people on campus via email if you have questions or concerns. See if you can generate some of that. But we're just in this really difficult time right now where we can't know what you're thinking. We've got to hear from you. And just like we talked about, there are offices, there are faculty members, there are all these people on campus who actually are your advocates. Use those channels, right? Don't let it be left unsaid. And also don't assume that we know what the issues are. This pandemic is a nightmare for us too. And as much as every day I'm trying to press the gas pedal and get to students and hear what they need and offer things, we're imperfect. So call us, write us, send a carrier pigeon, whatever we're allowed to do in pandemic times here, but reach out and let people know what your challenges are. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Mary Walmark and Ms. Anshul, once again for this great insight on having free speech. We do want to keep the conversation going now on equity initiatives. And we want to ask Ms. Chella Patterson if she can just speak a little bit about what's going on campus in terms of the equity initiatives that are going all around.
Thank you, Jennifer. Bienvenidos. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for the invitation. If you saw my profile picture, just want to mention that I am a proud first-gen college student. That was actually when I got my doctorate. So it was a big day for me and my family as well. And if you students are in similar situations, there's a lot of us in campus that have been through similar experiences. And so when we're trying to do the work that we do, you are the ones that we're keeping in mind and how to help you be successful, all of you, from our different perspectives. And that's a lot of the work that we do. Thank you, Hugh. In terms of equity, diversity, and inclusion, is that everybody feels that they're represented, that their needs are being attended to, that their perspectives are being covered. Hugh, if you go to the next one, I'm going to be talking about the University Diversity Council, which I chair as the interim Chief Diversity Officer. It's been in place since 2014. Because of time, I'm going to try to keep it moving relatively quickly. But the main thing that I want you to know about the UDC is that Our goal is to represent the wide spectrum of perspectives, to be inclusive. It is a campus-wide representation, and I'll show you that in a minute when we get to another slide, and that we work very hard at aligning the work that we do with the strategic priorities of the university. Next slide, please. These are the priorities. We have work groups based on the things that we're most focusing on. This is not the only things that we focus on, but one of our work groups is really spending a lot of time about how do we increase the diversity of our faculty and staff. We've heard from you, we are well aware of it, and we are working very hard to do what we can to improve in that arena. We're spending some time looking at the campus climate. How do we make it more accessible, more welcoming to everyone? Even things like public spaces, and I know right now we're not on campus, but the art, the buildings, the things that are reflective of the area that we're in and the people who walk across our campus. How do we fund the different things that we're working on? Because they do take money. How do we communicate these things to all of you? Some of this is involved in our annual report, and I'll show you one of the new things that we've done recently. And this is a newest work group, but social justice, diversity, and inclusion across the curriculum. And that one has only been in existence for a few years, but really looking at the curriculum and how is it reflective, again, of the diverse populations that we serve. And so these are the things that we work on as our work groups. Next slide, please. I wanted just to show you this so that you can see that we have faculty, we have staff from all the divisions of the university, and we have student representatives. So it truly is a campus-wide council that we work on. And our President Hutchinson pops in when she can. We give her the schedule and she tries to come in even if she can't stay for the whole meeting, because she's very interested in the work that we're doing with the council. If you move to the next one, Q, in terms of the initiatives. One of the things that I want to mention is that the council is not the only one doing diversity, equity, and inclusion work on campus. It's all of us that are working on this. And a lot of the things that we're working on we're working together with our campus leadership, with people across campus who are not necessarily on the University Diversity Council, who are serving students in all different ways. So I had to pick and choose what things I was going to talk about today, because otherwise I would need way more time than we've been able to do tonight, because we're covering a lot of topics. The first bulleted initiative here is that President Hutchinson and your student body president, Bree, and myself as the interim chief diversity officer, we sent out a statement challenging the status quo last September, and where we emphatically stated that Black Lives Matter, and that even though we've been working hard on a lot of things, we need to do better as a campus, and that we are going to do better. And here are some of the things that we're working on. And so in that area, we talked about, for example, President Hutchinson has convened a task force to look at our policing practices, to review that and make sure that we are doing that in the best possible way that we can. And that's one of many things that were delineated in that. You should have received it. I hope you did in your email if you checked it. If not, you might want to go back and take a look at it. The other thing is in that, again, President Hutchinson gave some very specific charges to the council itself. And one of those is to survey our faculty, staff, and students to measure how we're doing and what are the really important issues that are coming up today. We've done these campus climate inventory surveys over the past decades, but the needs and the concerns evolve. And so it's time for us to certainly do another one. And we should have some recommendations done by May. And then the other thing is to look for some options for anti-racism training. This one has a little bit of a delay. We were supposed to provide recommendations by December, but we've brought in some diversity consultants, and we want to, who are going to be looking at our campus and what we're already doing, and based on those recommendations, decide what some of these things would be in terms of both the climate survey as well as whatever training that we're doing. So we are going to do these, but we want to include some of the findings from the consultant. So there may be a little delay on when that's going to be done. I wanted to tell you about our new Equity, Diversity, Inclusion website, which we've been working on for quite a while. And if you just for a minute, if you could click onto the link. We wanted a place where everybody could go to look for those particular information, and it would be applicable to Hugh. Are you able to click onto the link? Okay, maybe we're having a glitch there, but if for whatever reason you can see what it is. Oh, thank you. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I don't have time to do it, but I want you to know that there's a section in there specifically for students, for faculty and staff, the academic and support programs that we have, who our leadership is. There's a section on data and demographics. Every page has an Mechoopda land acknowledgement, and our status, our proud status as an HSI, which we've been since 2015. So those are the things that we want to put out there very proudly and to share. And there is also, I heard in an earlier question about what if we have a question or a concern. There is an email there for the diversity office that you could send an email and we will respond if you have something that you want to bring up that's important to you. Q, if you could go back to the other slide. Thank you. We did a 21-day challenge earlier this semester, which was a voluntary way of individuals wanting to participate and learn more about different perspectives, multiculturalism, and it was something that people opted in to do. And there were almost 700 participants who did the 21-day challenge. We may do some kind of an adaptation in terms of an anti-racism training. It's something that we're looking at right now, but it was very successful. And what I think I appreciated it, I participated in it, was not only did I learn about some things I wasn't very well versed in, but also it didn't just say, okay, look at this, but then how can you put that into action? If you want to be an advocate, what can you do? What kind of things, you could journal about it. You could write an article. You could talk to a friend. So there were different suggestions about how you could actually take some action, which I think people are very much wanting to do right now. It's not just about informing ourselves and studying things, but they want to see some action. And I think that was great. Okay, Hugh's telling me to wrap up. All right. I just want to mention AB 1460, the governor signed the new ethnic studies requirement for GE Area F. All of you, you do not have to complete this. This goes into effect for next year's incoming class. So you are not under that requirement. I know some of you were like, well, wait, what if I don't, how am I going to get this done? It is not a requirement for you, but it does mean that from now on, incoming students will be required to take a 3-unit ethnic studies course. And we've got some coming up in the spring, but my time went. So let's deal with questions.
Woohoo! Thanks, Tella. Oh, I love this slide. Wow. Love. Thank you so much for sharing all that valuable information. And yeah, we do have some questions. I'm going to toggle from like the survey questions to the questions that we got from Zoom. So our first question we got from our survey was, can you please share with us what additional resources you have, well, not you specifically, but the university has allocated and/or initiatives the university has started to support the academic success of first generation and underrepresented students since the start of the pandemic?
Well, there are things that were already in place that we just did differently because of that. For example, we have a graduation, again, another campus-wide committee that is always looking at student success and how do we help you to be better learners? How can you graduate quickly? How can we remove financial administrative barriers? And when all of this happened, we reconvened a task force to specifically look at how does this impact you in a virtual learning world? Some of the things that have been put in place, like the Keep Learning site, if you have not seen it, you need to go take a look at it. That gives you some tutorials on the different types of software that are out there. We provided more hotspots and laptop loanouts and connectivity for students. Unfortunately, we've already talked about like the study space issue. Every time we try to open up for you all, another tier shuts us down, and that makes that very difficult to do that piece. So we've been spending a lot of pieces in that, as well as a large majority of our faculty have gone through a Go Virtual Institute, where they learned how to teach online. You know, for the most part, we're an in-person teaching campus, and all of a sudden our faculty had to switch. And so this was to give them the tools about how to be the most effective in their teaching and to engage with you all as students. We are, though, looking at other things even now about tutorials, about the most effective for sync and async, and how to be a better online learner. And so we're providing some of those things. And the library has really ramped up their services. They've always been awesome. But right now, in terms of contact the library, in terms of using some of those online research tools, because they are very helpful in that arena. I'll leave it for there right now.
Sweet. Thank you. The next question we got from the Q&A, it says, the recreational sports scholarship seems flawed. The scholarship only supports students who have at least 1 year of sports activity in order to cover their costs. My team, the rowing team, has been unable to be inclusive due to our high costs and lack of university support for first-gen and low-income students. In sum, the financial support is only available for people who got past the cost barrier the previous year. Is there anything being done to address this barrier and increase equity in sports?
I personally don't have an answer to that question because I was not aware of it. But what I would encourage you to do is to contact the recreational sports office director and ask that question. Unless somebody else in the Zoom has a response to that.
President Hutchinson, did you have a response, or Mary?
I really appreciate what Chella just said. I think that's the right thing to do, is check in with recreational sports and find out what's going on. I was unaware of that as well. So thanks.
Thank you, Chella. Thank you, President Hutchinson. Our next question, how is the university holding faculty and staff accountable to teach and lead in a way that is inclusive of all identities and knowledgeable of the diverse needs of first-generation students of color and or LGBTQ+ students?
As I mentioned earlier about the Go Virtual, we also have an Inclusive Pedagogy Institute, our faculty development program, which provides professional development for our faculty, have what we call faculty learning communities, and we have representatives from different programs on campus. For example, our director of Latinx Equity and Success is a regular going in and talking about, not just about how to better serve Latinx students, but how to better serve first-gen students. That's just one of many examples. I know I've gone in before to participate in panels around that. In fact, they will have panels where the students themselves will come in. The other thing is that we do a professional activity every January called our Tipping Point. We're getting ready to do our third one. And we oftentimes will have students be speakers or panelists or do videos to talk about what is it that you want us to know, your faculty, your staff, and how to better serve you. And our sessions may be in tips about how to engage students, but it might also be understanding the mental health needs of our students or basic needs, and what are the demographics of our population. And so we do all of those. And they've been very well attended. Unfortunately, because of where we are right now, we're going to have to do our own virtual Tipping Point this January. The previous 2 years were in person.
Oh man, thank you, Chella. Last question we have from the Q&A. In regards to being in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement, have there been any talks about relocating funds from University Police Department towards life-affirming resources for students like basic needs, hiring more counselors, and campus community projects?
I will
think
defer
that's
that one. Yeah.
Chair, if I may, I think that's a fabulous question, and that's part of the work of the Presidential Task Force. So the Presidential Task Force that Chela mentioned earlier is off and running. The task force is comprised of 33 people. It's very diverse, very representative of the campus community, includes not only students, staff, and faculty, but community members. And we have hired a nationally renowned facilitator. His name is Reverend Dr. Jamie Washington, to work with us on the task force. The task force will be looking at all of our policies and practices associated with campus safety and security, and that may be part of the conversation as this group engages. And I also know that when this group engages in their work, there'll be opportunity for other campus members to weigh in. So it's certainly part of the question that we're looking into. So when I get recommendations in April, we'll be sure to report out as to the work of the Presidential Task Force.
Thank you, President Hutchinson. Is there anyone quickly typing one last question before we move on? If for some reason you're typing and we move on, that's okay. It'll be answered by someone in the chat, and or again, fill out that survey so that way we know, okay, what else can we add to this town hall and what other questions do we have? Tella, thank you so much for answering all these questions. We appreciate you tonight for joining us. Thank you. And now I'm going to pass it off to our first fiscal impact presentation for the night, and that is with Miss Jamie Clyde.
Thank
you.
you.
Talk about AS fees. Sorry. Jamie.
No problem. I know everybody's dying to, at 7:30 when it's getting a little dark, let's talk about finances. So I made sure to make my PowerPoint with tons of numbers for you. All joking aside, I'm happy to talk about the AS specific fees, but I'm going to go into a few things for you. Basically what a fee is, how they're governed, the fees that are administered by the AS, where your fee dollars go, and then kind of what services that we're currently offering. Thank you, Hugh. So this first slide just really kind of talks about the fundamentals of student fees. When you hear the word fees, it's a challenging term because a lot gets thrown into this. As you'll be able to see when Stacy and I both speak, we're talking about two completely separate fees. There's multiple categories of fees and they're unique to each campus. So fees is a large conversation. So I just kind of wrote down a few of the things. The main ones that I'm talking about are the category 2 fees, which are what the AS administers, which are the union fee and the activity fee. They're governed by Executive Order 1102. It's on the campus website. I'm happy to answer any questions, but there's a lot of really good information on there about how those different guidance comes along within those each individual categories. If you want to move to the next one, Hugh, thank you. So I'll start with what a mandatory fee is. A fee that's initiated by the students. That's how our fees are designated, the union fee, as well as activity fee, and they were voted on. So they're somewhat of a student imposed tax. So all the fees that we have went for a referendum and students voted and had to pass in order for us to have the fees that we manage currently. And there's other ways to do that. So I put those on here as alternative consultation as well. But the two that I'm referring to were both done by referendum. If you want to move on to the next one, Hugh. So these are the category 2 fees that are specific to our campus. So as I mentioned before, if we're talking about Humboldt or we're talking about Sacramento, they will also have category 2 fees, but they might not be the same ones. And they also don't necessarily have the same dollars that's associated with that. And that's simply because there's different services that are attached to those fees. So say, for example, the union fee, if a building is a little bit older or smaller on campus, they might not have the same kind of debt service that we have on our campus. There's campuses that don't have a rec center, so they would have a lower union fee than we would. If you look at Northridge, they have slightly lower fees with the same services, but they have more students, so that amount of money gets dispersed differently. So these are the current ones. As you can see, the activity fee, and I'll go into these fees a little bit about what they cover, is $142. That's a year. And the student union fee, which is $850 a year. Thank you, Hugh. So what are we responsible for? Well, one of them is what you're at right now. So the Government Affairs Town Hall. So we house multiple different activities within the AS. We're a really unique, sorry, it's getting late and I can hear my kids in the background. They're messing me up. We're a unique Associated Students in the fact that we're the only Associated Students in all the CSUs that operate our own commercial services, the union, and the rec center, which is one of the reasons that some of our fees are higher, is because we have so much under our umbrella that some of the other auxiliaries, the ASs specific to the CSU, don't have. So this is just a couple of the specific things that we do. The rec, the union, you can kind of see in the corner there, that's the child development lab. There's probably a lot of services that we offer that you might not know necessarily that we are part of too, but we have contract programs that we fund, like the Cross-Cultural Leadership Center, CLIC, and then we also provide money to the Beeline that supports our students to ride free. Thank you, Hugh. So I had this conversation with Bree a little while ago, and it's a question that I would ask as a student as well. If the doors are closed, what is our money going to? And so I want to walk you through a few of the different things of what some of the costs that are still, that we still fund at the AS, as well as some of our services that are available. I'm going to move on to the next one, Hugh. Okay, so this is a very tiny snapshot with lots of dollars thrown into big, huge buckets for you. But all of this is available if you really want to dive deep into some numbers. All of our financial statements are available online on the AS website, and you can see the individual categories. But what I'm trying to draw your attention to here is your funding. This is the activity fee. So I kind of broke it up into two different fees so you can get a look of what each one of those are. Is the total revenue and then the total expenses. So as you can see this year, based on the headcount expectation, when we put into our budget last year, we were expecting to go into the reserves already. That was before COVID hit, and we didn't really know exactly what our headcount was going to look like, or what kind of services we were going to need to provide. And that's changed, as you can tell, as a student, and we certainly know that too, multiple times. And I can go into more of these specifics if you have questions on there, but this is kind of that big picture vision for you. If you want to move to and here's the union. I think the union is, I don't know if the word is a little bit more exciting to talk about, but I think it illustrates a really good picture of where your money's going at this time. So the union is in the exact same boat as the activity fee is, and that is where, if you look at the total revenue and the total expenditures, we were already planning on going into our reserves based on that time. And a lot of the reason for that is a lower head count. We're completely funded by head count. So for every one person that doesn't come into the campus, it's an $850 loss. And all the expenses that we have still stay as is. You can see the largest one there is our debt service. So without even opening the doors or anybody coming onto campus, there's a debt service of over $5 million that we still pay to keep the union and the rec center going. if you look into our specific, oh, that's fine, Hugh. We can leave it on that one or go back to. If you look at what our specific fixed costs are, so fixed costs are essentially just costs that we are unable to divert, even if we never opened the doors. And that's about 80%, which is pretty surprising if you have that number. And that really comes into the fact that even if the buildings aren't open, we still have that debt, we still have the debt service, we still give a large portion of our monies back to the financial aid. We have capital purchases, and then of course keeping our salaries, wages and benefits, because we are still providing multiple services virtually. Now you can move on there, Hugh. This just gives you a very quick snapshot of the capital projects that were already on the budget that we're still moving forward with. So it just gives you an idea of how truly expensive it is to run buildings. You can move to the next one too, Hugh. And then I put this in as just a snapshot as well. All this information is available on our website, but these are just some of our virtual services that we're still continuing to provide. Not all of them are virtual. As you can see, the AS Child Development Lab, we've been open during this whole, we only closed down very shortly and we have reopened. So we are still servicing our baby wildcats, as we like to call them. We have had some in-person opportunities with CAVE. We still offer all the internships. We're started a new program where we're actually doing tutoring as well. As you can tell by being here, our student government officers are still representing you and working on the advocacy as well as our different committees on campus. Our AS programming, if you went to the burrito event, that's just one area that we're still functioning with. AS sustainability, we still offered all of our SFAC funding. That actually goes to deliberation on this Friday, where we're releasing over $50,000 in funds. And our AO equipment has still been available to all of our students. As you can see, the rec is probably our sore spot. The amount of effort that's gone on the other side of the computer is really hard to spell out for everybody. We were able to open up, but then due to the restrictive nature of the tiers, we did have to unfortunately close back down on November 16th. But we were able to keep the spa and pool open during those times. So as you can see, we're a pretty complex organization and we're offering multiple things virtually as well as in person. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I know it's a juicy topic and there's a lot to be said in fees.
It's Jamie, which was one dropped in the chat. Are the fees represented in the slides per semester or for the overall?
You cut out, but I think you said if they're in the semester or year, they are for a full year. So not only the fees, but the revenue and the expenses, I did it based on the whole year. It has an estimated head count based from last year. So that changes depending on what the spring semester is.
Sounds good. Another question that has been recently also dropped is, what is the difference between AS fees and university fees and how are they determined?
That's a complex question. I was talking to Bree about that a little earlier today. It mostly has to do with who facilitates and who's responsible for the fees. So we as the AS are responsible for those two particular fees, but that can look different on each campus. So for example, the rec, we're the stewards of that fee and the responsibility for management ownership of it. That said, if you look at San Francisco State, that falls on the state side. So it can change campus to campus, and it's done here. Those two fees were done by referendum with AS.
Sounds good. Another question is, who is responsible for making the decision if any additional reduction of fees or refund of fees will occur? And is there currently something being considered? If not, why?
So At this point, the CSU system has operated as a whole, and the chancellor has come out, I guess it was, I don't know what the time is, 3 months ago, and keeping that all fees category 2 are to remain consistent. So that's consistent through the whole CSU system, that there will not be a reduction in the category 2 or mandatory fees. That's tuition as well as category 2, which are all those as fees that the AS does.
And Jenny, I'm going to try to answer part of that in my presentation too following.
Sounds good, Ms. Corona. Okay, the next question would be, what are some AS services that can be easily accessed by students? Some students are still finding it hard to access online resources through AS.
Absolutely. The website is completely updated. Actually, just to get my PowerPoint up tonight, I went on our website and you cannot miss it. There's a huge button that says virtual services. Click right on that and it'll give you a list of all the things that we are doing virtually. I would say that the hardest thing for us to keep up on is things are in consistent swing, right? There's challenges of things that change. So we're always making up new ideas and new plans and running with those, but the environment changes so quickly that sometimes it's hard to get those things up and moving. As you can see with the rec, all the time that was spent to get the building up and moving with all the new protocols and the proper equipment that we needed. And then it isn't really up to us when the state went into purple, we had to shut down. So that's the hardest part, is just keeping up with that. But we have a lot of advocacy, and the good news that I keep reminding everybody is that we've done so much planning, and there's a whole group on campus, and we have so many plans in the work that at this point we've done so much strategic planning that when those different tiers change, we're able to move really fast, which is very positive.
Thank you. One more question is, how much, with the revenue being lower than the expenditures this year due to COVID, thus the lower enrollment of students, do you see AS cutting services to students due to the lower revenue event, even virtually? Because being virtual still has costs. Can this result in an increase in fees in the next academic year due to having to divide into reserve money, even with the expected higher enrollment?
I think I got that question. So right now we have kept all of our services continued and going. So they may look different, but all of our services are still being offered. We do have a healthy reserve, which is really good for the organization since we do have such a high debt payment. So at this point, we're not reducing any of our services. They just look different. Do you want me to address separately the headcount piece?
Whatever you see fit.
I'm happy to kind of dive into that. So essentially, our organization is a little bit different. We do have the use of our reserves that we do keep to manage those buildings. So we're able to keep our services intact, and we do plan out multiple years in advance. So our budget, if you look online, it's actually forecasted out for 10 years. So we keep intact what the different headcounts look like throughout those times. One of the things that makes the AS a very unique organization is that we're able to move rapidly. And so during these times when we did experience lower headcount and some of the challenges that came with increasing costs as well, what we did is we were able to move quickly, and we did make some modifications. We did have some layoffs during that time. We also didn't provide any additional rate increases, and we didn't fill many of our positions. So I think that's kind of the counter of those. Those are measures that we take long before we cut services.
Sounds good. We just have two more quick questions. One being, how are the services provided for the academic year require the same, if not more funding as previous years when campus was not online? Why are the fees the same if they are virtual, which is not the same quality as it would be in person?
I think that really goes back to talking about some of the fixed costs. When you think about, I feel like this from a student perspective, you feel like the rec, for example, why am I not able to use that treadmill? That to me is the most important thing for me. But when you look at the different costs that go into keeping that building, the actual use of the treadmill is probably the cheapest thing that we do. So all those other costs are still there. We're still providing the virtual services. We still have the different classes. We're still employing those students. We're still keeping up with the building so that when we can come back to campus and we can see everybody and get to be back there, we'll be ready to go and making the improvements that go along with that.
Thank you, Jamie. Now we're just on our last question. The question being, will you be offering any virtual events? I think by you, they mean like AS, be offering any virtual events in the spring that facilitate the deep conversations we have lost this semester? For me, college is all about discussion, and it feels like there hasn't been many opportunities for that this semester.
Absolutely. We have a full events operating team, and they're constantly looking for new ideas and things to bring, along with obviously the government officers bringing an event like this. If you have, I'm not sure who's asking the question, so if you have specifics, please reach out to any of your officers and talk a little bit more about what you'd like to see. We're creative and we're innovative, and we're happy to plan programming that goes along with the needs.
Also a plug, just jumping in here, CCLC has great deep diving conversations. So if you don't follow CCLC, I highly recommend Chico State Cross Cultural Leadership Center. Follow them on Instagram. They're always posting about having Zoom calls and deep dive discussions all the time. Just a plug for them.
Yes, I completely agree. There are many resources, another one being the Women's Circle, which is what's for women, but you can look more into it on our AS website as well. Thank you so much, Jamie, for answering these questions. Who wouldn't love to talk about fees and money at 7:30 at night?
Thank you for having me.
Yes. We're going to continue that conversation about fees with our university fees, and we invite Ms. Stacy Corona to lead us in that conversation.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Bree, for letting us share all this good information tonight. And like Jamie said, how exciting. It's 7:41 and we're still talking about fiscal things. So people are still awake. They're probably laying in bed listening to all this. So good evening, everybody. Happy to be here and share a little bit more information. I think quite a bit of my presentation will kind of, complement what Jamie went over, and I'll try to modify a few things since I didn't connect with her first on what she was going to present. So go ahead, Hugh, take us to the next slide. These are the 5 topics I hope to go over tonight and inform everybody about. So a little bit about tuition, campus-based fees, kind of again, complementing what Jamie went over, financial assistance we have given to students, CARES Act funding, a little more information about that, as that's kind of a hot topic, and just some helpful resources and information that I put together. Okay, so tuition. So a consistent and relevant question for many students and parents that we're getting, and many of these go directly to the president, as was mentioned earlier on emails. So is why hasn't tuition been reduced? So our CSU tuition is set by the CSU Board of Trustees. So it's not up to the campus to decide. We don't have the authority to reduce it. I wanted to explain a little bit more too, that tuition funds over 50% of our campus budget. So tuition plus the state support that we get is what funds our budget. So it's a huge part of it. There was a message there that I just put in there about why, the chancellor didn't reduce tuition. And we've also been really impacted on our state budget because of this economic downturn, caused by the pandemic. So we're kind of getting it twofold. We're getting, reductions in enrollment hurting us, as well as our state support has been reduced. So That's a little bit about tuition. This just shows, I wanted to share what tuitions kind of look like. I know I saw some comments in the survey that was sent out that said tuition went up $500 and why did tuition go up in the spring? So I just wanted to be clear that tuition hasn't increased in over 3 years. The last time it increased was in 2017-18 academic year, and that was a 5% increase of $270 per year. And then up before that, it had been flat for about it has been flat for 6 years before that. So I just wanted to share that and make sure that was clear. There hasn't been any increases. The only thing I thought is it might have been about our campus mandatory fees that went up a few years ago. So maybe it was referring to that, but just for tuition alone, it hasn't increased. So, and just the campus, we're very committed, right? This tuition helps us make students, get progress towards degree and make sure they're earning their academic units to get that nice degree at the end of all of it. So this kind of dovetails to what Jamie was saying, but more on the campus side. So just trying to answer, what does tuition cover? It's important to know this, and so I wanted to share this with you. Wages and benefits, they make up 80 to 90% of our campus budget. So we're required by our CSU union agreements and different leave programs that we have for employees to continue paying our faculty, staff, and our student employees. So another big cost for the campus budget is utilities, repair and maintenance, insurance, and like Jamie said, debt on our buildings. So this is kind of like, a house or a car payment to you or maybe to your parents might have. So we have debt on our housing buildings. We have debt on the Student Services Center. We have debt, like Jamie said, on the rec and the BMU, the new Arts and Humanities building that we just finished a few years ago, and as well as the science building that you saw at the beginning. All of those have debt payments that we have to make, and they're very large amounts, very much a fixed cost, as Jamie said earlier. We also are still providing all of our academic support services, student services, and physical and mental health services. So again, there's a lot of details and a lot of programs within each of those bullets. But again, all of this makes up what our tuition covers, which is why as the system and the chancellor hasn't reduced that. So a little bit on campus-based fees. So Jamie set this up great, since she shared some of that in her presentation, that these campus-based fees are separate from our tuition. They vary by type and they vary by cost across each of our campuses. So Jamie went over the AS fees, which great job to kind of explain what those all are. In the spring semester and in the fall, we did a very diligent review of all of our campus-based fees. So what we determined as a campus was that our costs were still being incurred that warrant the collection of these fees. The one that we did reduce was the instructional related activities fee. So it reduced by $29 per semester from the $49 a semester fee that it was. And that one had some specific costs that were attributed to travel and in-person events that didn't happen due to COVID. So that one had a direct correlation, which is why we ended up reducing that. I just wanted to highlight on a couple more because these seem to be most of the questions that we're receiving. The health center, which is the Wildcat Center now, they're still offering their services virtually and by appointment. And I hope everybody knows this. I know as I try to share it, it seems to be not common knowledge, but students can access health center services at any CSU campus. So by paying that fee, it allows you to access that at any campus. So if you're living, down in San Diego, you can go to the San Diego campus, even though you paid the fee to Chico. So the student learning fee and consolidated course fee, this is another fee that all students pay. So these costs are still being incurred. I wanted to share a couple creative ideas and ways that we've been offering these services and materials, because I think it's important to understand. The nutrition classes, they are making up food boxes and mailing these to students' homes. The musical instruments, they're mailing those to homes so students can still, be performing and doing that work from home. We had a bunch of loaner equipment, so loaner laptops, headsets, webcams, those kind of thing. We have been basically mailing those to students' homes with instructions about how they can contact campus, how they can get the access and security to get that laptop and that equipment up and running for them at home. So those are just a little bit of creative ideas that that the campus and our departments have been doing to try to say, hey, we know we're collecting this fee, and what can we do in a creative way to still provide that service to students. And there's quite a bit of information about all of our campus-based fees out on our budget website, and I put a link there at the bottom. Okay, Hugh. So shifting gears a little bit, one of the questions we're beginning is, what assistance have we been giving to students, during this pandemic? And I wanted to put all these on here kind of by semester because I thought that might be the most helpful. And then I'm going to go into CARES Act information a little bit more on the next slides. So for spring 2020, we have done refunds for housing and parking, right? We've moved to a virtual learning environment. Students had to move out of the residence halls. And we got those refunds out to students within 30 days for housing and parking. The campus and CARES Act funding, I'm going to share that a little bit more. Basic needs have been providing assistance each semester. I'm glad we touched on that earlier in the night. Fall 2020, we did the same thing. We moved to, all virtual the second week of the semester, I think, and we turned around and got those housing and parking refunds out to students. We also have some additional funding going out for CARES Act, basic needs as well, and then the reduction in the IRA campus fee that I mentioned on the previous slide. And then looking ahead to spring, the IRA fee continues into the spring. And then we also have some increased work study funding that we've just recently received from the federal government that is a group of us trying to work on how we can get, work with the Student Employment Office to connect with students and get some jobs out there and hopefully get some work into their pockets as well. As I know this is really hard, right? We're all virtual, and how do we keep our student employees engaged? So I'm trying to put some, a little bit extra efforts, I'll say right now towards that as we got some additional funding. I think somebody mentioned on one of the questions earlier, I mean, if we do get some, future federal assistance like we did the CARES Act funding, we will definitely, get that turned around and out to students as quick as we can. So I thought this would be important to touch on. This is a big sum of money that came to Chico State. We have a website that has all the information out there on it. It's federal dollars that we received based on legislation that passed back in late March. Each of the CSU campuses received, they call them tranches. You can call them parts, buckets, whatever you want. We received 3 tranches of money. So emergency relief funds, institutional use funds, and we receive money as being a minority serving campus. So to the tune of $21.4 million. Now on the next slide, go ahead, Hugh, thank you. So this is that same breakout of that 21.4 million. I thought this would be important to share. So those 3 tranches are off to the right that I was sharing with you, and the total is that 21.4 million. So a large sum of the money, in fact, 88% of this has been going to students to help support them. So we did the spring and fall refunds. Those are those 2 top numbers. We did, I think Chayla might have mentioned this faculty training that we did this last summer, kind of a go virtual or trying to help them, being able to instruct differently and teach more in a virtual environment. We have a lot of money going towards technology. So this is where we've been buying those loaner laptops, hotspots that are built for students. We've been upgrading lab software so students can access this remotely. We've been doing broadcast technology to enhance learning for students at home, software that the colleges needs to teach virtually, and expanding our Wi-Fi coverage to our outdoor kind of green spaces on campus. So that's all summarized in that 1.8 million. And then lastly, but not least, is we did allocate out emergency grants to over 10,000 students. So to the tune of $11.4 million. The campus contributed about $439,000, which is what I have footnoted there at the bottom, for students that weren't eligible for CARES Act funding. So when I hear what assistance are we doing, please know we tried to. It was very important to President Hutchinson to get as much of this in the hands of students and to support everybody in this time of need. So of that $21.4 million, 88% of that, or the items that are in red there, did go to support our students. And last but not least, I put this slide together just to show lots of resources. I mean, there seems to be questions still that I'm seeing, you know, what other assistance is available to students. Just please reach out to financial aid. Please reach out to that basic needs office. We all work very closely together, communicate on a regular basis, you know, and maybe there's something else out there that you can, you know, we can help support you with. The ITSS, which is our IT department on campus, I'm sure all students know about this, but they do have a limited ability, or excuse me, a limited availability of laptops, headsets, webcams, and hotspots. So we have been working on some surveys going out to students to see who else is in need, but please reach out to them as there is items available that we bought with that CARES Act money that I just talked about. And then on the information side, you know, more information about our student fees, all the student services that we're offering virtually, this Keep Learning website I just found the other day. It's really cool. I put that link out there. Technology support, again, tied to the ITSS side, and then information about our CARES Act funding and all the requirements that go along with those dollars. And I also threw down there, because we're talking about budget, is the CSU's budget request that was just approved by the Board of Trustees for next year. So if you're interested in, you know, diving in at 8 o'clock at night to a little more about budget and finances, you can go out there and read some great information about what the system is presenting, you know, requesting from the governor for our budget for next year. I'm trying to look over at questions as well. So
yeah, I got some questions for you, if that's cool.
You got it. Shoot.
Thanks, Stacey. So first question, I'm going to go in the chat since we're running out of time. I'm just going to just ask this question. Thank you, Jamie and Stacey, for explaining the AS and campus-based fees. I'm currently an MBA student, and we are required to pay the professional MBA student. Ooh, whoops. Oh, that one went away. We're currently required to pay the professional MBA fee, which is an additional $270 per unit on top of graduate tuition. For the spring 21 semester, I'm paying $7,862 for graduate tuition at AS fees and MBA fee. Has there been a discussion on reducing MBA fees? Thank you.
Yeah, not to my knowledge. That is a separate program and a separate fee that gets approved by our campus fee committee. It has unique costs. I can't tell if it's the regular MBA fee or the new online MBA fee that we have. I assume it's maybe the regular one. So I could ask that question, but to my knowledge, I wouldn't see us reducing that. I don't know if President Hutchinson has any thoughts on that. No, just because he saw her unmute.
No, I don't have any thoughts on that.
I can give a little bit.
Okay, thank you, Deb.
The MBA fee that we're talking about is the one that's related to the in-person. The online MBA fee doesn't have an MBA, doesn't have a fee. It's just the in-person. And I would encourage the student, I know that Dean Lau, the College of Business, has run some information sessions, discussion sessions with the graduate students in business to talk about the fee. And I'd encourage the student to reach out to Dean Lau to be able to join that discussion and to learn more about the fee and what it's being used to support in terms of his education.
Thanks, Deb. Okay, last question for you, Stacey, and then we'll wrap up for the night. With an ending of President Hutchinson's going to speak for a moment as well. So this question is, students like myself who have already faced financial hardships from the pandemic were essentially forced to transition to bedrooms and living rooms and buy printers and other supplies where a financial burden and the university failed to address that. Why has a stipend not been issued or a partial and reasonable amount of tuition not reimbursed? Maybe you could talk about, like, can tuition be reimbursed and something like that.
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, I mean, we as a campus don't have the authority to reduce tuition. There is kind of a hardship, I'll say, process or an appeal process if you wanted to appeal fees. I'm not sure the question that was asked, I would think would qualify for something that it has to be fairly unique and quite a hardship, not the pandemic and that so many students are going through. I do know that, that CARES Act funding, I mean, we were trying to get that out as soon as we could, definitely to hope toward, help students with technology and the internet and some of the things that were in that question. What else was in there, Bree? I'm trying to think if I'm addressing everything. I
Sorry,
can't see it.
why was a stipend not issued or a partial and reasonable amount of tuition not reimbursed to aid students during this transition?
Yeah, I'm trying to think what else I can say there to help with that. I mean, tuition, no, again, we don't have the authority to reduce that on our own. And as I said, we did go through all of our campus-based fees and such. We did, reach out and we got the CARES Act funding out as soon as we could. The only thing I could think is he could reach out to the financial aid office. I'm not sure if there's something unique. Sometimes circumstances or their eligibility for financial aid and stuff might be unique to them. That's the only thing else I could offer right now.
Yeah, I'm really interested in that link too of where students can file their hardships. Is there like a link for that students can find, and maybe they do have an extra hardship?
Let me look it up.
Okay. Thank you, Stacey.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for speaking on that. That's such a heavy topic. All these were heavy topics. And tonight we have had the honor to have all of these folks with us. So wherever you're meeting us at, over Zoom, in your bedroom, in your kitchen, if you can do like a silent high five, not a silent high five, but a silent applause or a little applause to yourself or some snaps for all of our speakers tonight. It's been an incredible ride. And yes, it is 8 o'clock, but we have one more remark from our lovely university president, President Hutchinson, who will speak before we leave.
Thank you, Bree. And thank you to all the presenters tonight. I found all of the presentations substantive, informative, and I know that you were answering great questions from our students. So Bree, I have to tell you that I'm really excited about this forum. I think you and the AS officers, along with all of the staff who were supporting, really helped to put together a great program. But it's very similar to what Mary Walmark said, and that is we need to know what our students need. We need to know what our students are concerned about and what they're thinking. And this is a wonderful forum from which to do that. So I want to thank you and everybody. Lastly, though, I do wish to say this. These are unprecedented times. They truly are. I'm not sure we'll ever see something similar to this in our lifetime. At least I hope not. And the resilience and persistence that each of you are showing through this is just remarkable. It is fantastic. And it is so much the Wildcat way, your resilience, each and every one of you. And I want to thank you for that. As we continue to go through this pandemic, it is a marathon. And so I want to reiterate some of what I said at the beginning, and that is really, truly try to find ways to take care of yourself and to reach out to others and help connect with others to assist as well. And then each and every one of us is here. And for the audience, I'm not sure you know, but the executive leadership of this campus takes our responsibility of you and for you so seriously that members of cabinet are also on this call tonight. And I want to recognize that Provost and Vice President Academic Affairs, Deb Larson, is on the call. Vice President for Business and Finance, Ann Sherman, is on the call. Interim Vice President for Student Affairs, Sandy Parsons, is on the call. And so you need to know that we take this incredibly seriously. And then lastly, I was struck with the conversation around free speech. And what's important to know is that the whole purpose of a university, in addition to helping create access for all students to gain a high quality education, as we do here at Chico State, is to bring together divergent points of view. It is at the university where we really want to instill upon students how to think critically, and to think critically based in fact. And to do that, it really brings forth and encourages divergent points of view, divergent thought, but all of that is a major responsibility. And when we bring those interesting and different points of view into a conversation or a dialogue or a debate or even a protest, it's so important to do so in a way where it is literally based in fact, and that we are literally forming our arguments very well. But here's the other side of critical thinking and listening. Listening is very much a part of critical thinking. And I wanted to impart that on you, that we as a university are a university to advance knowledge. And the only way we're going to do that is if we can have these really courageous conversation, debate, conflict, and be able to come together. And once we are together in that, is not let it turn into a shouting match, but to do something more importantly, and Mary said it well, and that is to turn it into action, and from action turning it into policy and practice that is sustainable over a long period of time. So I just wanted to impart that on you as we close tonight. But most importantly, I am incredibly proud to be a member of the Wildcat family because of events and interactions like this. So again, thank you to our presenters. Thank you to our AS officers, to all the staff, and most importantly, thank you students for your interest in the quality of your education. And for that, I wish you a really productive end to the fall semester. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President Hutchinson. Tonight, we will find our recording of the AS Community Town Hall on our AS website at some point. So if your homies weren't here tonight and they missed out on this awesome conversation, hit them up and be like, yo, it's on the AS website if you want all these questions answered. Lastly, don't forget to hit up that survey. Let us know how you thought about AS Community Town Hall. Let us know if you want another one. Let us know if you want something different. And lastly, we have a poll. So if you're still here and you can see the screen, hit up that poll real quick for us, friends. And then go ahead and enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you so much for attending AS Community Town Hall, and we'll see y'all again soon. Bye, y'all. See you soon.